What if it's morning and the entire planet wakes up with no memory of the past? Planes flying midair? No one remembers how to land them. Governments? Gone. Supermarkets? Full of confused people wondering what a banana is, with no knowledge of history, laws, or even personal identities. How long would civilization survive? Or would we create something entirely new? At first, things would be very, very quiet. Billions of people would wake up, stare at the ceiling, and think, who am I? Where am I? Why am I wearing socks? Then, all at once, global panic. For the first few hours, people would stumble around in confusion. Governments would stop functioning. Scientists would stare at their equipment, trying to figure out what they were supposed to do with it. Pilots would wake up mid-flight, staring at a dashboard full of blinking lights and thinking, what are all these buttons for? Meanwhile, people stuck in less fortunate locations, like roller coasters, submarines, or skydiving free fall, would have a much bigger problem. The first day, mass confusion. By mid-morning, the world would be a mess. Drivers would forget how to drive. Highways would become bumper car arenas. Doctors would forget how to doctor. Hospitals would be full of confused people staring at each other. Parents would stare at children, wondering whose they were. Children would stare back, equally confused. Everyone would be looking for answers. The good news? Books, signs, and digital records would still exist. If people realized they could read, they'd start learning about the world again, one Wikipedia page at a time. The bad news? The internet wouldn't last forever without maintenance. And without people remembering how to fix things, society might start falling apart fast. Week 1, civilization tries to reboot. By the end of the first week, people would have figured out some basic things. They need food and water. Some might drink shampoo before they figure this out. Phones exist, but they don't know how to use them. Lots of accidental selfies. The world is full of words they don't understand. Someone would definitely misinterpret emergency exit. At some point, someone would have the idea to start reading not just menus and signs, but history books, manuals, and old emails. This is where things get tricky. Imagine rediscovering history with no bias, no memory, and no personal attachment to anything. Would we believe the history books? Would we trust our governments? Would we repeat old mistakes because no one remembers making them? The world might divide into two groups: people who think history is real and try to restore the old world. People who think history is fake and try to start over. It would only take one stubborn group deciding the past was a lie before things got complicated. Month 1, survival and strange discoveries. As time passed, people would start relearning basic skills, but without guidance, things would get weird. People might invent new languages based on random sounds. Some might claim houses and cities for themselves. Some might find old movies and assume they were historical records. Me, the Avengers, was our ancient mythology. They say Iron Man was a god. Religions, political systems, and economies would all reset from scratch, but not necessarily in the same way they were before. In some areas, people might rediscover democracy by reading old constitutions. In others, the most charismatic person with a megaphone would declare themselves ruler. Some countries might rediscover space travel before they figure out how to farm. The world might accidentally skip ahead or fall backward, all depending on who read what and when. Year 1, a new world order. By the end of the first year, humanity would have two possible futures: a global utopia, where everyone resets and works together to rebuild a better world. A chaotic mess, where power-hungry people take over and society fractures into tiny, confused groups. Chances are, both would happen in different parts of the world. Some countries would recover quickly. Scientists would find old research, programmers would reboot technology, and farmers would figure out how to plant food. Other places might fall into the Dark Ages. If the first book someone finds is The Lord of the Rings, they might just decide to rebuild Middle-earth instead of civilization. Either way, the old world would be gone. People would rewrite history from scratch. The real question, would they make the same mistakes? Or, with no baggage from the past, would they finally build a better future? At first, mass confusion, chaos, and a lot of people forgetting to eat. After a few months, small groups might restart civilization in totally new ways. After a few years, a world unrecognizable from the one we knew, maybe better, maybe worse. Either way, history as we know it would be gone. And in the end, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Or maybe, just maybe, someone would find an old diary, flip to the first page, and think, I have no idea who wrote this, but I think I want to be them.